Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Slayman, let me come to you first. I know that you're aware that Senators Blumenthal, Klobuchar, and I filed the Open Market App Store bill so that we could address Google and Apple and their stranglehold on that app market. So very quickly, how do Apple and Google's data practices factor in to this app store and how they limit the use there? And do they incentivize the app store developers to continue the monopoly over this market that they have? So how are they manipulating that marketplace? Very quickly.
Thank you so much, Senator Blackburn, and we were so glad to see the introduction of the Open App Markets Act. I think that's going to be really important, not just for big data, but for gatekeeper power writ large when it comes to app stores. But in particular, with regard to big data, I think the app stores and the operating systems have this privileged position where they can treat users' decisions about their data differently based on whether the app is owned by the app store company or the operating system company or whether it's a competitor. So one thing that's really important is to make sure that those are being treated the same so that we have a level playing field for competition.
I think that's important, and that privileged position that they exercise is important to note. And you mentioned the gatekeeper property and how that would apply to other applications, whether it is publishers and other forms of content development. So I think that this is an important bill that we get passed in on the record. Very quickly on filter bubbles. And I know you mentioned that. How do you think we could address the filter bubbles and the platform's secret algorithms, if you will, that really kind of manipulate that consumer experience online?
So one of the ways that big data is used is to decide what products to show the users. The platforms, again, are in this gatekeeper role where they're making those decisions. A lot of times that's based on an algorithm that is fed by data that they're collecting from users. So those decisions about which products to show to users, which services to offer to users, those are decisions that the platform gets to make, and that's limiting the options that a user sees.
Yeah, and I think that the Open Apps Market Act gives us that footing, as I said, that gatekeeper role to begin to address that.
Yes.
So that the online consumer has a more private and a more genuine experience. And we're looking forward to getting that bill passed. So thank you for those comments on that, because I agree with you. I think the implications, we're going to see it writ large in the industry. Mr. Satterfield, if I may come to you for just a moment. As you're aware, Senator Blumenthal and I have kind of been doing a deep dive on what you're doing with this data that you're collecting on teenagers. And from working with Whistleblower and from the data that we've seen, basically reams of data, at this point, we are concerned about this amount of data that you are keeping on teens. Basically, what you're doing is building a virtual presence, a virtual you of these teenagers. Do you think that is a violation of the Children's Online Privacy Act, the fact that you're tracking and following and building these files on these children?
Senator, no, we're complying with the law. We do think it's really important to provide protections around teens' experiences on our services. These are things that we've been investing in. We've been consulting with third-party experts so that we do this thoughtfully.
Okay, who are the third-party experts that you're consulting with? Because when we talk to teachers, to parents, to pediatricians, to psychologists, and when we look at the data that you have collected from teens and the changes that they have recommended that you make to your platform, it's like you're turning a blind eye to that because you're chasing a dollar. So why don't you bring some clarity to bear on that?
Senator, this isn't something that I work on at the company. I'm happy to get back to you with more on the third-party
Well,
experts. I would say that
if you're the
Still
VP
going.
of Privacy and Public Policy, one would think that you probably were in meetings and that you would have a stakeholder position in what your company chooses to do on that issue. Are you not involved in these discussions of privacy and how to protect this data and thereby how to protect the virtual you of these children and teens that are using your platform?
Well, Senator, yes, of course. I was talking about safety experts and experts on well-being and such. Yes, of course, I'm involved in privacy issues, including privacy issues that affect the teens on our platform.
Do you have any plans in the works to use the data that you have collected, the data that teens gave you, the information they gave you when they participated in your mental health survey? Are you going to use that to put protections in place for these teens on your site, yes or no?
Senator, all of the research that we do informs the decision making in the company. So it's certainly something that we'll
but
take
the
into account.
decision making that you are exercising shows that you're making decisions that allow you to be more profitable, not that you're making decisions that are based on the welfare of that child. So why do you collect so much data on your users if you do not use it to improve the user experience? So you're not using it to protect children or to improve the user experience. So for the record, why don't you tell us what you're using this data for?
Senator, we are using the data that we collect when people use our services to improve their experiences.
So why would teens that took your mental health survey say, why would older teens say, we're advising our younger siblings not to use Instagram, not to be a part of this online community? Because they feel like you're not following what they're asking you to do. So what are you using the data for? Are you using it for micro-targeting to go in and target advertising? Are you using it to feed them, to push them further down paths? If they click on one something, then you keep feeding them more of that. Why don't you, for the record, tell us what you're using this data for? You've got reams of it.
Senator, when it comes to the data that we collect when people use our services, we do a couple of things. We use that data to provide the service. We use it to improve the service, to provide enhanced experiences.
Tell me what improvements you have made that would keep teens healthier and safer. Give me 3 examples of things you've done that would keep teens healthier and safer as they use your platform.
Well, Senator, with respect to Instagram, we have made changes to the ways in which adults can contact potentially younger users. We've made changes to the way in which people can comment, and we've made changes that are designed to address potential bullying and harassment in comments. We've made resources available on well-being and body image issues. We've made a number of investments over the years that address these kinds of issues.
Do you nibble around the edges, or are you aggressive? Are you going to stop allowing human traffickers, sex traffickers, drug traffickers to use your platform, whether it's in the U.S. or other countries? Is that the kind of improvement that you're making?
Well, Senator, respectfully, absolutely not. There's no place on Facebook
It happens.
for activities like that.
It happens. There's a Mexican drug cartel that's been on your platform. You didn't take them off.
Senator, that organization was designated and banned on our platform, if what you're referring to is the organization from the Wall Street Journal article.
I have to tell you, and I have grandchildren. I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter. My grandsons are 12 and 13. And my granddaughter is a year old. And I tell my grandsons all the time that they cannot trust you all with their information. I think what you have done to a lot of these children is inexcusable. I think the fact that you collect this data, you monetize that data, you benefit from that data, and then knowing you have this data, don't you think parents would have liked to have known that this was taking place on your site? I do. And I think it is unfortunate that you all have hesitated to answer the questions that Senator Blumenthal and I have, but we do look forward to having a representative from your company come next week and answer the questions that we have in our hearing. And Madam Chairman, we look forward to hearing more from Google and Apple about the open market apps bill. And with that, I will yield back my time.
Thank you very much, Senator Blackburn. Second round,